Trust is the currency of banking, and trust is the sum of two things: what you say and what you do. It's your words, it's your actions. But as a financial brand leader, how do you establish trust in the age of AI? How do you deepen trust in the age of AI? Well, let's find out together on today's episode of the Banking on Digital Growth podcast.
You're listening to the Banking on Digital Growth podcast.
Welcome back to the Banking on Digital Growth podcast. I'm James Robert Lay, founder and CEO of the Digital Growth Institute, where we help financial brands uncover and eliminate their biggest customer journey blind spots so that they stop losing loans and deposits. Now, before we get into today's episode, I want to invite you to be one of 100 financial brands that I am guiding through the 2025 Digital Growth Accelerator. This accelerator program is only for growth-minded financial brand marketing, sales, and leadership teams who want to thrive and not just survive in 2025 and beyond. So if this sounds like you, if you want to thrive, if you want to grow, if you want to level up your loans and deposits, text me right now, 832-549-5792, and let's have a quick conversation like I've had with dozens of others who listen to the podcast because they reached out. They want to thrive. They want to grow their financial brand. And I'm confident we can do the same for you when we have that conversation to begin with. Now, speaking of conversations, joining me for today's conversation on the podcast is Jack Hubbard, co-founder of The Modern Banker and co-host of the Modern Banker podcast. Welcome back to the show, Jack. It is great to share time with you as always.
Well, it's great to be with you, James Robert, and such an honor. And you are doing such an amazing job in our industry, and the books you write and the speeches you do, you're sharing knowledge and wisdom, and that's very important across our industry. We need it right now.
I appreciate that, and maybe we'll get more into the idea of wisdom because as you and I were talking before we hit record, I feel like we're going through another shift. We're moving into the what I'm calling the wisdom economy, and this is actually something that it's thinking within the last 30 days, so it's relatively fresh. And before we get too far into just unlocking your wisdom and your experience and what you're seeing and thinking right now, what is good for you? Just if we just stop, pause, what's good going on personally, professionally? It's your pick to get started.
Well, health-wise, I feel great. I've gone through a couple of years of challenges, and we'll get into that, but I feel fantastic. And one of the other neat things about it is I think, I've been married 52 years, but I think over these past couple of years, I've gotten closer in my relationship with my wife. We've been able to do more together. And the other thing that's really good is we're building a new home, and it's going to have a podcast studio in it, not as elaborate as yours, certainly, but I hope to continue to do this as long as I possibly can. So life is really good.
Well, I'm so happy to hear that because as you mentioned, your health, overcoming challenges. Talk about that because and the reason I want to start here is that I know so many leaders right now. We all have challenges. We all have struggles, and every struggle is different. But the way that we approach that struggle, that challenge, that obstacle, I think is going to determine how or even if we get to the other side of that. And I know that when you had your health challenge, you had emailed me, and I think I even recorded a loom back to you, and we kept in touch through that. And your mindset, your positive perspective, at least that's what I observe from the outside. How much of your mind and your mindset played a role in just the journey that you had when it came to just your health?
Well, you don't know this, but you really helped me a lot be as transparent as I possibly could by posting things out on LinkedIn about it. And the reason is because you have been so transparent about some of your health challenges, and in the books you've written, you've talked about your family, and we all have challenges. Um, Life was really, really good for me for a long, long time. And in April of 2022, I was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. And the doc said, you better get your affairs together. You can still buy green bananas, but you got to get your affairs together because you got about a 30% chance to survive. And that wasn't a feel good. That ride home from the doc wasn't a feel good. And about halfway home, my wife said, we've been married a long time. I'm not going to let you die. And right then, I kind of got this idea that, okay, we're going to get through this. And I had great doctors and I took a lot of medicine for 2 years and did proton therapy. And now I'm, at least as of today, from my knowledge, I'm cancer free. And one of the things that my oncologist said when I first met with him, he said, the most important thing is not the medicine, it's you. And he said, I want you to take a deer approach to this. And he said, if you do that, you're going to make it. And the deer approach is diet, exercise, attitude, and resilience. He said, you're going to have not great days. And I had not great days. But he said, you're going to have really good days. And I'm convinced that between prayer, a lot of friendships, great support from my family, and phenomenal doctors, I made it. I made it through. And it was interesting because during that time, I decided with my good friend Bob St. Meyer, a company that I founded, St. Meyer and Hubbard, 24 years ago. I said, Bob, I'm not going to let you down. I said, I want to sell my interest of the company to you, and we'll still be involved and get together and all that. And he didn't want to do it, but he finally did. And it was really the best thing that I ever did, because it really relieved me of a lot of the pressures, as you know, of being an entrepreneur and making payroll and making sure that you take care of your families, your employees, and things like that.
Yeah.
So along that journey, as I was getting better, I formed a company with my friend Bryn Tillman, the modern banker, and now I'm director emeritus at St. Meyer and Hubbard, co-founder of the Modern Banker. And what we're doing is helping bankers with better sales conversations, better sales leadership conversations, and helping them understand how to connect LinkedIn to the sales process. So I'm as busy as I want to be. And it's really neat. I put this thing out on LinkedIn about director emeritus. And I'll bet within a week I had 10 phone calls and say, hey, could you come out and do training with me? I've trained 80,000 bankers. I've been so blessed in my career, and people are starting to call again. And now I can kind of pick and choose what I want to do, where I want to go, because I still want to play golf and spend some time with my family.
I really appreciate you just sharing that. The idea of the deer: diet, exercise, attitude, and resiliency. Specifically, diet, I'm a big believer in that. It's like the old adage, you are what you eat. Food is medicine. Um, I, I think it's so easy just to not pay attention to that, particularly when you're busy, you're on the road, but being very mindful of what you put, how you're fueling your body. Exercise. Audrey and I recently did a podcast about, like, if you're a leader and you feel stuck, just go move your body, get out, go for a walk, go for a run, lift some weight, go play golf. But just get out and move, because when you start moving your body, your mind body connection right there. But then the attitude and then the resiliency, those going hand in hand together. But really, to bring all of this kind of full circle, is this has opened up a whole new growth opportunity for you. And it's like, you're looking out at the future. It's like, I want to do this as long as I possibly can. When you think about training 80,000 bankers, that's your past. Now you're looking out towards the future, which is different than your past. How important is it? Because I think a lot of leaders, and I'm struggling with this right now myself. It's like, as an entrepreneur, I'm always looking out towards creating the future, a future that does not exist, a future that in some cases is unknown. But if I think about the banker MO, it's easy, and I'm empathetic to it. It's easy to cling to what we know. But what if what we know is no longer what is required to get to the next step, to get to the next level? Attitude, resilience. What's your recommendation for letting go of the past?
Well, that's a hard thing to do. I'm really big on looking forward. I think that's always been my business partner, Bob St. Meyer, used to tell me when we play golf, we tee off on the first hole, and he'd say, I'd say, well, what are we going to do for dinner? And he'd say, can't you just play the hole, play the course? I've always been one to kind of look out and look forward. And I think we're blessed, parental blessings, DNA blessings, environmental blessings, whatever the case might be. I think looking forward is really critical. And it's you just have to, there's some things you just got to let go of. When I was a banker at my first bank, the bank president's son came into the marketing department with me, and we did not hit it off very well. And I held on to that anger for a long, long time. And my wife said, finally, we just said, we got to let this go. You just got to let this go. And when I started to let things go, and that happens in our life, when you start to let things go, the rest of good things will happen. And I think too often what happens is, and I think this is especially true of entrepreneurs, we try to force the issue. And when we go into the city, Chicago, or we'll go on vacation or whatever, and I'll say, what do you want to do? And my wife will say, let's let the city come to us. And I think for entrepreneurs, a lot of times things will come to you if you're just open to it. If you just open your mind and be willing to accept what's next for you. And I had to do that. I think, when I played golf during my cancer time, because I would walk 18 holes, that's really good for you. I noticed things that I never noticed before. I noticed the birds. I noticed the wind. I noticed, the jokes my buddies were telling me. I was worried less about hitting a great shot and more just enjoying the experience. And I think if a banker can kind of let that happen, that's a great thing. And I'll just end this question. It's a great question by saying it's harder to be a banker now. It's more challenging than ever before. We're doing more with less. There are more regulations. This morning, I was on a big Wintrust board situation. I'm on the board of one of the Wintrust banks, and we had to do our annual board education. And you go through all the things that a banker has to face, and it's a challenge.
Yeah.
We can say we're in a deregulated industry, and we certainly are. But behind the scenes, there's all kinds of stuff we got to be careful about. So you're always treading on thin ice when you're a banker. You got to be real, real careful about it. So that's why I think enjoying every day, enjoying every moment, enjoying every call with your prospects and clients and centers of influence, and looking forward is important.
I appreciate that perspective. Letting go of the things that no longer serve us. To your practical anecdote of you had some issues, your wife, and I think that's important too. I think about my wife. She calls me out all the time of, hey, you gotta let go. You gotta just let that go, because it's easy just to hold on, but that creates an anchor that creates roots, and it's the root of a weed, not the root of fruit that would go forward into the future. And I think, to your point, continuously looking out towards the future with hope, with optimism, that things, as challenging as they might feel right now, will be even better. I think one of the greatest lessons that I learned from Dan Sullivan in Strategic Coach was we always have to make our future bigger than our past. And when we do that, it's always working forward towards something even bigger, even better, even brighter, which is where, with your story, with your narrative, that's the modern banker. And just that name alone, the modern banker. What does that mean? What does it mean to be a modern banker today? What might it mean to be a modern banker going forward into the future? What does that mean? Modern banker.
The modern banker has got to act and be different than a relationship manager of the past. They have to be a resource manager. A modern banker needs to wake up every morning and think, how can I provide value today to somebody versus how can I sell something today? The modern banker will be successful as a resource manager, as a value provider, as a trusted advisor, although that phrase is kind of well worn now. They'll be successful if two other things happen. If the culture provides tools for them to succeed and their leader is on the same page behaviorally with them. Too often I see a lot of discontinuity between what the website says, what we teach bankers in a classroom, and then what they actually experience in a team meeting or a pipeline meeting or in a coaching session with their leader. The website says, we want to build partnerships. We're a trusted advisor. And in the team meeting, all I hear about is numbers, numbers, numbers. So the modern banker is someone who must build trust, must provide value on an ongoing kind of basis, and must be a resource. In a recent statistic in small business America, bankers were viewed and seen as someone who's most trusted only 17% of the time. In other words, when a small business needed help, they would only go to their banker 17% of the time. Bankers and Google were the same number.
Oh.
We have got to work really hard as an industry to provide that level of trust, to provide that level of value on an ongoing kind of basis. You know, when I was a banker, we controlled 74% of the financial services marketplace. We now control less than 14%. We've allowed this to happen to ourselves because we had hubris. We thought everybody has to come to us for loans and deposits and all these kinds of things. And now we know that fintech, non-banks, you name it, are stealing our thunder and stealing our customers, and we've allowed that to happen.
You mentioned this idea. There's the trust aspect, which I know, which is it's a key element of the framing of the modern banker. Trust-based sales, but you also mentioned resource manager. Let's put the trust piece on the side for just a second. We're going to loop back around that. Resource manager. What does that mean? What does it mean to be a resource manager?
I wake up every day and either in my portfolio, in my community, with my centers of influence or my prospects, I am proacting to them based on what they need. They don't need loans. They don't need deposits. They need to manage their cash better, manage their growth, manage information. They need to manage those kinds of things. And a resource manager goes beyond product to people and tries as best they can to understand the problems and the priorities, and then works hard to provide resources to solve the problem. And that may not be their current bank. Charles Green and I got to be really good friends. Charlie wrote The Trusted Advisor. And one day I said to Charlie, what's your definition of a trusted advisor in banking? He said, a trusted advisor banker is that banker who is willing to refer their best customer to their most challenged competitor because the banker knows that the competitor can do a better job for their client in that particular service. When you are selflessly willing to do that, you are a trusted advisor. And so I just added the mantra of resource manager because that kind of encapsulates all those things and also puts together the fact that when I become a resource to you as your business, when you wake up in the morning and you say, I've got money in motion means I'm doing something different. You're going to do some exciting new things in 2025. I'm excited to learn that. That's money in motion. And when money goes in motion, James Roberts should be thinking about his banker. How can my banker come along on this journey with me? What best practices can my banker help me with based on other consulting firms that they've done business with? That if you have that with your banker, you have a resource manager, you don't have a relationship manager.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's something that I think connects the idea of what you and I were discussing even before we hit record. We're transitioning out of the quote unquote, the knowledge economy. It's like we were in an agricultural economy and then we moved into an industrial economy at the turn of the 1900s. Around 1960, 1970, we moved from the industrial economy into, we'll call it the information age, the knowledge economy. And that was really became even more evident in 1994 when the internet reached the mass consciousness of humanity. But now, as we're moving into the quote unquote, the age of AI, knowledge is becoming even more commoditized. Large language models are based upon a lot of information, a lot of data, a lot of quote unquote knowledge. The next level is what I'm framing as the wisdom economy. And the wisdom is based upon experience. Wisdom is based upon your experience, my experience. Right now we're sharing experiences, we're sharing perspective. I see an opportunity, particularly for bankers, especially on the SMB side of things, to unlock wisdom, to capture wisdom, to amplify wisdom. Not just their wisdom, but the wisdom of the other entrepreneurs that they're working with as well. Because this is how we differentiate when knowledge is commoditized because of large language models. And if we can share our wisdom and share the wisdom of others, there's a human element. There's the human experience. There's the human relationship. All of this comes back to something that we mentioned resource, but we put trust on the side. I want to come back to trust because you're, particularly with the modern banker, you're really thinking about this idea of trust-based selling. What is that? What is trust-based selling? In your words?
Think of it as the relationship versus the solution. Think of it as the human sales process leading to priority-based conversations that lead to solving a problem, not selling a product. Some people say, well, that's semantics because it's just consultative selling with a little bit of a twist. And I think it's a mindset. I'll give you an example. Let's say that you're a banker and you're going out to see a customer who has one product with you, one service. And your job, because your manager told you, is to cross-sell. I think that's wrong. I think your job is to go out and cross-solve. Your job is to solve problems. Your job is to understand their problem and see if there's a way that you can solve them. So the trust-based selling aspect of this is the way I prepare by getting around to the other side of the desk and think like a customer. What are my challenges? What are my priorities? And so I prepare that way as if I'm the customer. I ask questions that are focused on the customer and their problems and not the product. And when I do all of that, if they buy something from me, well, that's terrific because I can help them. If I've helped them understand their problem enough that they can do it in a different way, I feel like I've built trust and they'll come back to me the next time. So trust-based selling isn't a semantic, it's a way of life. It's the way you approach things. It's when you get in your car, am I trying to sell a loan or solve a problem? And that's the difference, I think, between consultative and trust-based selling.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt the conversation with Jack, but I wanted to take a minute to tell you about the 2025 Digital Growth Accelerator program that we have launched exclusively for growth-minded financial brand marketing, sales, and leadership teams who do want to thrive and not just survive in 2025. So if this sounds like you, text me right now, 832-549-5792. and let's have a quick conversation. That's because when you join the 2025 Digital Growth Accelerator program, you and your team are going to get access to a customer journey assessment along with a website secret shopping study that shows you where you have blind spots in your customer journey, costing you millions in loans and deposits. You're also going to get access to 12 classes of the Digital Growth University so that you can confidently level up your strategic growth, your loan and deposit growth in 2025 and beyond. And finally, you're going to get access to ongoing learning, ongoing development through quarterly customer journey masterclass workshops that I will facilitate and to show you exactly what you need to do next to eliminate common customer journey blind spots so that you can level up loan and deposit growth every 90 days. Even better, you can join right now, risk-free, no risk to you at all. You can join the Digital Growth Accelerator with no risk because that means that you can have your money back. If by the end of 2025, you do not get at least a dozen new ideas that will help you build your brand while eliminating customer journey blind spots so that you can level up your loan and deposit growth. Put it another way, what are you risking by not joining the Digital Growth Accelerator? How many more loans and deposits are you going to risk losing because you have unseen blind spots? You have unseen gaps in your customer journeys right now that you're just simply not aware of. It's no one's fault. Here's the best part. When you take action to apply what you learn in the Digital Growth Accelerator, you're going to make your investment back. You're going to make the investment back that you're making in yourself. You're going to make the investment back that you're making in your team when you acquire just 3 to 5 new accounts. So if you're ready to thrive and not just survive in 2025, text me right now, 832-549-5792. Let's have a quick conversation and let's get back to the conversation with Jack Hubbard. How has the idea of establishing trust, particularly through the lens of banking, how's it changed over the last 10, 15, 20, 30? I mean, let's just go back to 1994 because that was an inflection point with the internet reaching the mass consciousness of humanity. How has trust changed over the last 30-year period of time?
Well, the Edelman Trust Barometer does something every year, and they survey a couple 100,000 people about trust. And the financial services industry has never done very well around that. Now, there's some bias built into that. If they were to interview somebody whose loan got charged off, or they got charged $50 for an overdraft, and they got asked a question at the wrong time, yeah, okay. Trust has changed over the past 30 years. I remember when I was a kid and I was 10, my grandfather would take me into the bank, and that was the focal point of the community on a Saturday.
Mhm.
You'd get cookies and you'd see everybody. And there were 14,000 banks in America. Well, as we have gotten less and less and less banks, trust has eroded either through acquisition and nothing will change after the merger, which is a complete lie,
Yeah.
or some banks that have undermined the trust of all because of certain things that they have done.
Mm.
And I think the other thing too is that when banks like what happened to Silicon Valley Bank earlier in 24 and others, that undermines that whole industry of trust. I think the other thing too, James Robert, is that customers have gotten a lot smarter and there are a lot more resources at their fingertips. So before it was almost an embedded trust. I have to trust my banker because if I don't, I have no place else to go. Now I can build trust with my banker and stay as long as there's trust established. But I also know that I have other leverage points and other alternatives. So I think the customer changing has really, really made this a difference.
Why now? Why is trust based? Why is now the time to really explore and invest in building this capability for future growth as a banker? And does trust based selling, does it create more value for certain areas of the bank as opposed to others?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I'll turn the question around and I'll say, when we're hiring bankers today, We need to hire them with a different mindset. It's yes, they need to add one and one together. But we also need to interview them differently so that when they come in front of our customer, we know that they will build trust with our customer and not destroy trust. So your question is, why is it a good time? It's always a good time. I think we're at a very interesting tipping point in our industry. Depending on the situation around the future Congress, et cetera, there could be more acquisitions.
Yeah.
There's going to be more rules potentially, which is going to cause more banks angst and maybe to go out of business or have to merge with somebody else. But I'll give you some data points around this real fast. There's a great research company called Revel, and Revel has done some interesting research with small businesses, middle market customers, et cetera. And they said, what is the most important characteristic of your commercial banker? The number one thing, 49% understands my business needs. Number two, responsiveness and accessibility. And number three, transparency and good communication. Transparency is all about trust. So I think at this time, going forward into the next decade and the next century, I think we can't look back. Trust is critical going forward at every level, inside the bank and outside the bank.
What could prevent a bank, even a credit union, from elevating and helping their bankers level up? Because like you said, I appreciate the perspective on hiring. Yeah, you got to add 1+1, but there's a whole other level of capability here. What could prevent an organization from making progress down this journey of growth around trust-based selling?
I think your message is the most important one, and that is the intersection between digital and human interaction. That's the real key. I'm seeing a big trend towards banks wanting to go more and more and more automated, more and more and more digital. And that's fine, except we're losing what they forget, because they haven't hired you, is they forget the human interaction that becomes that is so important. So that's critical. I think the other thing to understand in this whole area of trust is that we forget that there are two kinds of buyers. I'm a relational buyer. I want to buy things from people that I trust, and I'll go back to those people that I trust, even though it may be more expensive. My wife is more transactional, and that doesn't mean she's a bad person, but she wants her banker to do it right, do it fast, get in and get out. And I think one of the things we fail to do as we do sales training is we fail to talk about those two kinds of buyers, because if we don't, then everybody gets the same kind of experience, and that's not what we want. I think one other thing, and that is congruence. The whole idea, as I mentioned before, that the bank has a message, the leader has a message, and the banker has a message. Those three messages have got to be congruent, because the message the banker delivers outside is going to be in no small measure determined by the message that the leader provides, and in no small measure by what the culture supports. Those three things have to come together. If not, you've got incongruence, and trust is going to be broken with the customer.
Yeah. Education that leads to awareness. And I think about when I wrote Banking on Change, one of the patterns that I began to recognize is there are 4 steps for human transformation, whether that's the internal transformation of a banker or the external transformation of a customer, and just guiding them along their financial journey. The first step is to help someone see things from a different perspective. Because if they don't see things differently, everything's going to stay the same. The good news is through education, when you begin to see things differently, thought patterns start to change. So you see different, you think different. How are you thinking differently about education through the work that you're doing to help the modern banker? What is continuing to transform from the education, from the training that you're doing in this new world of AI?
Oh, well, we've only got a couple more minutes, so I'll keep this brief. I'm 74 years old. You have an amazing future ahead of you because from what I can understand, AI is just going to make this, it has already and will make a massive change. From a sales trading perspective, one of the exciting things that I have going in 2025 with a company called Performance Insights through St. Meyer and Hubbard is the ability of AI through what we call AI Navigator to take the material that people have learned in a St. Meyer and Hubbard class, connect it to ChatGPT and Copilot from a call planning and a sales management perspective. So banker is going to call James Robert Lay's company, and I want to do a call plan. I can go to AI Navigator through the St. Meyer and Hubbard material, and I can go in and I can find out anything I want about James Robert. Now, here's the difference, and that takes a nanosecond, by the
Right.
way. Here's the difference between your point about knowledge and wisdom. The knowledgeable banker will take that information, just go on a call and spew it back. The wise banker will take the information and look at it and say, what's most important here to James Robert? What are some questions? I don't like that question. I got to throw that question. I got to add that new question in. I want to ask about his family. He's got 4 kids, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to take what AI gives me and I'm going to humanize it. And that is the connection between knowledge and wisdom. And that's what makes me excited about going forward with sales training, because AI now becomes a tremendous partner. There's a great book that I urge people to read. It's called The AI Edge by Anthony Iannarino and Jeb Blunt. It's a brand new book. It's a fabulous book. And one of the things they talk about in there is, and they'll say it differently than what you and I say it between knowledge and wisdom. They'll say AI has a goal, not a soul. And that's the essence of what AI needs to do to help us be more productive and effective. And I'm excited about it, even at age 74.
A lot of this brings our conversation full circle. You're excited because you're always looking towards the future through a positive perspective. And I think that right there, that mindset alone will take you so far. It will take you beyond of even what you can perceive today, because you're always curious, you're always learning, you're always growing. And what you just said though about the AI edge, AI has a goal, not a soul. That's the human factor once again. And I think that's where there's such a tremendous opportunity to leverage technologies to make connections, connections that lead to conversations, conversations that even lead to content co-creation. Content co-creation provides a path towards future conversion, whether that's today, next month, next quarter, next year, but it's always coming back to the conversation and the connection, because that is the human factor. Where's the opportunity? What can someone who is watching or listening do today to either start or continue to make progress when it comes to trust-based selling, as we've been talking about?
That's a great question. Read. Um, Americans read so little. I try to read a sales book a week. So I would say to a bank and a banker and leaders, start a book club, force the reading, read books that are going to have relevance to you outside and around the customer experience and sales. Follow great leaders in the industry, people like yourself, Chris Nichols, Jason Hendricks, those kinds of people who have such great knowledge. We have got to continue to sharpen our saw, and we get so busy doing business that we forget that there's business going forward. And that business going forward is going to be successful based on the knowledge that we gain and the wisdom we can provide.
It's something that I touched on in Banking on Change, to where the average financial brand leader is investing 1 to 2 hours a week or less into their ongoing learning and development, which is, it's short-sighted. I get it. Everyone perceives that they're busy, but unless we create space and time to review and reflect of the progress that we've made, to continuously learn through, whether it's reading, listening to a podcast, watching a video, or just reflecting on experience, the thought patterns don't change, because we're not seeing anything different. You're reading a sales book per week, so your thoughts are always changing, because that's the third step in this cycle. Learning goes to thinking. Thinking goes to application, which is the doing. And when you're working through that process, learn, think, do, and review on a 90-day cycle, and you keep looking back, you're like, oh my goodness, we've come so far. I've come so far. Our team has come so far over the last 90 days. But it's a practice. It's a discipline. And it's not perfect. There's going to be days that we didn't perceive we didn't do so well. But when we get out of the micro, move up to the macro, when we climb the mountain, we gain new perspective, start looking out towards that future horizon line, like, wow, let's go there. Let's go see what others haven't seen just yet. Jack, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I'm so grateful for your perspective, your wisdom that you have shared with us all today. For someone who wants to continue to learn, to connect, to grow together with you, what's the best way for them to reach out and say hello?
I'm very connected on LinkedIn. I'm on quite often, so you can connect with me there. The email is jack@themodernbanker.com, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody, and always honored to be on your amazing podcast, James Robert. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack. As always, and until next time, be well, do good, and be the light.